All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Law on Kirk's Law Corner. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Enjoying the weather out there, whether you like it or not. We're getting rained on all day today. A little bit of rain snow mix here. Other surrounding areas been getting snowed on. So Mother Nature's last ditch effort to snow on us. Other than that, hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. The weekend was actually not too bad. Fairly sunny and clear here. A little cool, but uh, good to go. Want to thank all my supporters out there and followers and all that good stuff. Thanks for the likes, the follows, the shares, and of course the subscriptions over here on YouTube and the thumbs up on the videos. Um, Want to thank all the supporters out there that have been supporting the channels and helping pay the bills. And for those of you who'd like to help, you can send stuff over there to the offices, by the way. We did expand, so we actually now have 3 different rooms. Just needed more space with the addition of the team and all that stuff. So a little bit more costly, but we've expanded, so we needed the room. Anyways, if you'd like to send stuff over to the offices, the main office there is 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho, 83704. That's for them postal money orders, regular money orders, cashier's checks, any regular checks that works too. Gold and silver coinage. Any of those books you like to think I'd like to have. I want to thank one of my supporters, local supporters. He bought some Idaho Digests, which is nothing but Idaho. Well, it's also got United States Supreme Court, but Idaho Supreme Court rulings and stuff like that. Whole volume set. It's missing a couple volumes, but nonetheless, it's a great resource of case files. For the digital side of things, PayPal, Kirk_Pendergrass at hotmail.com. My Cash App is the $ capital K, capital P, EN71, and it is case sensitive. So, and then of course over on Patreon, that's really starting to kick off over there. We had again a pretty good meeting on Wednesday last week. Quite a showing of people there. So I greatly appreciate you folks and your wanting to learn and get active in what we can do in our republic. It's our republic if we can keep it. So that's the key here is we have to have the knowledge, and then the knowledge literally will empower us, and then we have to learn how to wield that power. So that's what Kirk's Law Corner here is really all about, is about the education, the knowledge, getting that knowledge and the power. So if you're not on Patreon yet and would like to be with us over there on Patreon, that'd be a great welcoming over there to get more people signed up to learn. Uh-oh, it says Facebook has no sound. What is going on over there? Test 1 2 3. Why is it not picking it up? I'm willing to bet with the last update, something got changed. Let me just see. Any sound? Nope, no sound over on Facebook. Well, we will have to figure this out. Is that any better? No, that's okay, something weird going on here. Of course, got to have some technical difficulties, right? Now you get to see me do some diagnostics. What's going on here? I think. Hello, hello? Nope. Let's find out if Zoom is muted for some reason. Why is it not letting me get to my audio? All right. Any better over there? No, I don't see anything picking up. Oh, that's weird. Um, oh, there it is. How about now? Nope, that's not working. This one? Hello, hello? Nope. No sound through Zoom. That's pretty crazy. It's showing flickering, but no sound. No sound, no sound. Well, Facebook, no sound for you. Let's see what happens here. All right. Anything else? Nope, nothing yet. Hmm. Frankie. Well, this doesn't make any sense. Unless that, oh, there it is. Okay, let's see what happens here if I turn. Okay, fine. Okay, well, that's not working either. Was working. I turned the Zoom volume up. All right, so that should be good over there now, right? Let's put on that one. You still hear that? Yep. All right. So OBS was having a hard time picking that up. I don't know what happened there, but I know that I did a major update on that particular machine. So that was the problem. I don't know if I'm getting some feedback on my, which is weird. The little speaker in the box is working. Well, I'll just have to deal with that for now. All right, so welcome to Monday Night Law on Facebook. Sorry about the issues there. Again, that was an update done to that machine, full bunch of updates that wanted to restart and do a bunch of stuff, so it messed with some settings in there, obviously. Yeah, YouTube's on one machine and Facebook is on another machine. I use two different machines to broadcast. So uh, Facebook didn't have any audio, but they do now. And I don't know how to turn that sucker off. So hope everybody out there on Facebook can hear now. And welcome to Kirk's Law Corner Live on Monday Night Law. Yeah, I was playing with some settings there, trying to change it back and forth. So, all right. I wanted to get back into this book. This is the Commentaries on the Law by Chief Justice Story. I was going to go into a little bit of the history here. Page 84 through 90, book 2. I'm pretty sure we're going to find some very interesting things in here regarding why our founders, right? The revolution. What was going on there? Why? This will be the history of the revolution, aside from what I've already shown through actual documents. But chat's on YouTube just fine. Live chat's going perfectly fine. Yep, everything's working over there. Must be a personal problem with your machine or whatever. Anybody else have a problem with liking, doing the thumbs up or sharing on YouTube? An echo. Great. It might be picking up that speaker down here. Is there still an echo on YouTube? I know that can be quite annoying. Okay. All right, so we're going to jump over here to 84 through 90, and we're on page XI. Where is there we go. 84 to 90. Come on. All sorts of issues here. What page do we end up on here? Should have put us on the right page. 51. Oh, that's because we'll get in there. All right. This should be the start of it right here. There we go. We are next to proceed to an historical review of the origin of that Union of the Colonies, which led to the Declaration of Independence, of the effects of that event. There was an event. Transactions, occurrences, and events, huh? And of the subsequent war upon the political character and rights of the colonies, of the formation and adoption of the Articles of Confederation, of the sovereign powers antecedently exercised by the Continental Congress, of the causes of the decline and fall of the Confederation, and finally, of the establishment of the present Constitution of the United States. Now, when this was written, this was 1833. We didn't have the Reconstruction. We didn't have that yet in 1833. Imagine that. So, what we're actually reading here is something pre-Reconstruction, and we're getting the real truth about the Constitution, not the skewed, reconstructed Constitution. Formation of the sovereign powers and the causes of the decline and the finally establishment. No redress of grievances having followed upon the many appeals made to the king. What does that say again? No redress of grievances having followed upon the many appeals made to the king and to parliament by and in behalf of the colonies, either conjointly or separately, it became obvious to them that a closer union and cooperation were necessary to vindicate their rights and protect their liberties. If a resort to arms should be indispensable, it was impossible to hope, of course, we're going to have this wicked back and forth. For success, oh, come on. But in united efforts. So that was the hope for success unless they united. If peaceable redress was to be sought, it was as clear that the voice of the colonies must be heard and their power felt in a national organization. In 1774, Massachusetts recommended the assembling of a Continental Congress to deliberate upon the state of public affairs. And according to her recommendation, delegates were appointed by the colonies for a Congress to be held in Philadelphia in the autumn of the same year. So this was the first Continental Congress of 1774. This is when everybody's basically saying, you know, we're tired of the crap over there, and we're tired of being subjected to bills of attainder, bills of pains and penalties, unlawful arrests, searches, and seizures, our basic fundamental rights from the Magna Carta that they adopted the English common law in 1606 with the first charter of Virginia. And this is a major misconception that we're still under the English common law. We're not. We separated from them starting in 1606, and we adopted certain parts of the English common law, not all of it. They were trying to get away from them again in history in 1606, like they did in 1215 with the Magna Carta. In reading the Magna Carta, we'll see that they were trying to separate from the Roman Catholic Church, Catholicism. The good Christian people wanted to be left alone and not be subjected under this ecclesiastical law, souls, trusts, Sestake Vi Trust of 1666. Okay, 1215 was before 1666, right? Why do you think they did the 1666 Trust Act? Why was there the War of 1688 and ended up with the English Bill of Rights of 1689? Let me see if I can divert that sound. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help on the echo there. Okay. So in some of the legislatures of the colonies, which were then in session, delegates were appointed by the popular or representative branch. And in other cases, they were appointed by conventions of the people in the colonies. The Congress of Delegates, calling themselves in their more formal acts the delegates appointed by the good people of these colonies, assembled on the 4th of September, 1774, and having chosen officers, they adopted certain fundamental rules for their proceedings. Thus was organized under the auspices and with the consent of the people, acting directly in their primary sovereign capacity, and without the intervention of the functionaries to whom the ordinary powers of government were delegated in the colonies. Ooh, so see what's going on here? They went around their appointees by the English crown, the functionaries. The first general or national government, which has been very aptly called the revolutionary government. Since in its origin and progress, it was wholly conducted upon revolutionary principles. The Congress thus assembled exercised de facto and de jure a sovereign authority. Why would they talk about de facto and de jure? Seems a little odd, doesn't it? Not as the delegated agents of governments de facto of the colonies, but in virtue of original powers derived from the people. See, even then, they knew that the way they had it set up back then was that all power was inherent in the people, and it was derived from the people directly. The revolutionary government thus formed terminated only when it was regularly superseded by the confederated government under the articles finally ratified, as we shall hereafter see, in 1781. The first and most important of their acts was a declaration that in determining questions in this Congress, each colony or province should have one vote, and this became the established course during the Revolution. They adopted a Declaration of Rights, not differing in substance from that of the Congress of 1765 and affirming that the respective colonies are entitled to the common law of England and the benefit of such English statutes as existed at the time of their colonization, and which they had by experience respectively found to be applicable to their local and other circumstances. See right there. When were the colonies first done? Well, the first colonization was Virginia. Jamestown, Virginia was actually established in 1603 with the first charter of Virginia of 1606. And as you can see right here, at the time, the common law of England and the benefit of such English statutes as existed at the time of their colonization, in which they have by experience respectively found to be applicable to their local and other circumstances. They also adopted addresses to the people of England, to the neighboring British colonies, and to the king, explaining their grievances and requesting aid and redress. In May of 1775, a second Congress of delegates met from all the states. These delegates were chosen as the preceding had been, partly by the popular branch of the state legislatures when in session, but primarily by conventions of the people in various states. In a few instances, the choice by the legislative body was confirmed by that of a convention. And e converso, okay? They authorized the raising of continental troops and appointed General Washington commander-in-chief, to whom they gave a commission in the name of the delegates of the United Colonies. They had previously authorized certain military measures, and especially the arming of the militia of New York and the occupation of Crown Point and Ticonderoga. Yeah, Ticonderoga. They authorized the emission of $2 million in bills of credit, pledging the colonies to the redemption thereof. They framed rules for the government of the army. They published a solemn declaration of the causes of their taking up arms and address to the king, entering a change of measures, and address to the people of Great Britain requesting their aid and admonishing them of their threatening evils of a separation. They erected a general post office and organized the department for all the colonies. They apportioned the quota that each colony should pay of the bills emitted by Congress. At a subsequent adjournment, they authorized the equipment of armed vessels to intercept supplies to the British and the organization of a Marine Corps. Aha, here we go. They authorized the grant of commissions to capture armed vessels and transports in the British service and recommended the creation of prize courts in each colony, reserving a right of appeal to Congress. They adopted rules for the regulation of the Navy and for the division of prizes and prize money. They denounced as enemies all who should obstruct or discourage the circulation of bills of credit. They authorized further emissions of bills of credit and created 2 military departments for the middle and southern colonies. They authorized general reprisals and the equipment of private armed vessels against British vessels and property. Gee, I wonder why they put that in the Constitution, that no emitting bills of credit. Because the people took up the power themselves. And I guess they probably didn't really like that. So this is what they do. They look at how it was done, and then they'll go, oh, well, we'll make a law so that you can't do that again. Oh. And the equipment of private armed vessels against British vessels. They authorized the exportation and importation of all goods to and from foreign countries. authorized the exportation and importation of all goods to and from foreign countries not subject to Great Britain, with certain exceptions, and prohibited the importation of slaves. Uh-oh. Here's a piece of history we didn't know about, huh? So what was the Civil War about again? This is in 1775 that they were prohibiting the importation of slaves and declared a forfeiture of all prohibited goods. They recommended to the respective assemblies and conventions of the colonies where no government sufficient to the exigencies had been established to adopt such government as in the opinion of the representatives should best conduce to the happiness and safety of their constituents in particular and America in general, and adopted a preamble which stated that the exercise of every kind of authority under the crown of Great Britain should be totally suppressed. These measures, all of which progressively pointed to a separation from the mother country and evinced a determination to maintain at every hazard the liberties of the colonies, were soon followed by more decisive steps. So here we can see on the 7th of June, 1776, certain resolutions respecting independency were moved, which were referred to a committee of the whole. On the 10th of June, it was resolved that a committee be appointed to prepare a declaration that these united colonies are of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British crown, and that all political connection, whatever, became connection between them. See, that this is how they wrote back then, right? That's connection. How do we spell connection today? Hmm. So what we're actually talking about here on on the 11th of June, a committee was appointed to prepare and digest the form of a confederation to be entered into between the colonies, and also a committee to prepare a plan of the treaties to be proposed to foreign powers. Now, I'm gonna do a little show you the history here and start that share again so I can move around. So now we're talking about the 1774 and all of that, right? Oh, I decided to play. Remember what I was talking about, the slavery being abolished there, what's been said there? I have this set as a quick link. But as you can see, back then, slavery was supposed to have been abolished by 1808. So what's in the Constitution talking about immigration? But we're going to go over here. We're going to look for the Lee's resolution, because this is the document they're actually talking about. I wonder if it's right here. See, there's the First Charter of Virginia, April 10th, 1606, 1609, and 1611. Okay, let me try and commit that one to memory. 1606 and 1609, I remembered. Just couldn't remember when the third one was. And you'll notice that these were all prior to the Mayflower. That wasn't until 1620. Right there. The Mayflower Compact. That didn't happen until 1620. We've got, a few years here, 14 years of history of law in America prior to the Mayflower, which I don't recall being taught that in school. I remember the Mayflower, right? Let's see, look here. Frame of government of Pennsylvania, clear back in 1683. Penn's Charter of Liberty. I mean, there's so much reading that we could do to see and read the history and the rights, how the rights have been trampled on, and how the people were kicking them to the curb. Like, we're tired of this crap. Let's see, we get into here. Here's a petition. Here's another petition. Which those are, I'm going to have to go back and read. Actually, I think I've read this one. The petition, Virginia House of Burgesses, the House of Commons. Now we're going to get right in here. Right here. 1774. The Association of the Virginia Convention. Declarations and resolves of the First Continental Congress. This would be the good one to read there because that's a declaration laying down the law. But then we want to look at, here's the Declaration for the Cause and Necessity of Taking Up Arms, July 6, 1775. This is the one they were just talking about. Okay. Patrick Henry's Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death. There's the resolution. And then this is when they started doing the constitutions, right? But there it is, June 7th, Lee's resolutions. And it's three sentences. Resolved that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. That it is expedient forthwith to take the most effectual measures for forming foreign alliances. That's what we were just reading right there. That a plan of confederation be prepared and transmitted to the respective colonies for their consideration and approbation. Now, this is right here in the source, documents illustrative of the formation of the Union of American States, Government Printing Office, House Document number 398. So that's in there in the history. And this is the document right here that we're referring to. Right here. Now, this says on the 11th day of June, a committee was appointed to prepare the digest. Oh, let's see right here. On the 7th day of June, certain resolutions regarding independency were moved, which were referred to the committee of the whole. On the 10th of June, it was resolved. But we're showing here June 7th. Now, certain resolutions respecting independency, right, were moved, which were referred to the committee of the whole, blah, 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 blah. We get back down here where we were at. right here. I would just quote. Let's see. This is a quotation from what we just read. Whoops. Now I messed it up. On the 11th of June, a committee was appointed. We're going to come down here. On the 28th of June, the committee appointed to prepare Declaration of Independence brought in a draft on the 2nd of July. Now we're skipping some information here. Where's the Declaration of Rights declaring the law of this nation? After we separated from Great Britain with the Lee's Resolution, we got to have the Declaration. What would that be? Well, let's take a look at the history of law. Right there, Virginia Declaration of Rights. June 12th. Constitution of Virginia, June 29th. So if we look at the timeline here, this is actually laying down the law of the nation. Which one came first after the Lee's Resolution? Because of the first established American colony, Virginia, which all of these other colonies, I wouldn't say all of them, pardon me, six out of the 13, not including Virginia itself, was created out of Virginia. So we had 7 total colonies in Virginia. So understanding how this works, once you declare the separation, and now we have to create the nation. And being this is a declaration of rights, this is how we lay down the law. This is the law of the nation called America. Then we look at, and we could go back and look at the draft of the Constitution of Virginia, which where is it? Oh, there it is. Oh, that's right. The resource you're looking for has been removed, had its name changed, or is temporarily unavailable. That's right. They don't want us. They don't want us to see this. They don't want us to see that one. Why don't they want us to see the Constitution of Virginia, June 29th? Huh. Well, that's okay, because guess what I got? I have it. Let me see. Let me see. Should be in here. Right there. Now, this particular PDF, the Avalon Project, Constitution of Virginia, June 29, 1776. This also has the Declaration, Virginia Declaration of Rights. But it's funny, I got it from Avalon, but it's no longer on there. Why is that? One of the things they're trying to hide, which they've changed it here, Okay, right here, Section 8, that in all capital and criminal prosecutions, a man hath the right to demand the cause and nature of his accusation, to be confronted with the accusers and witnesses, to call for evidence in his favor, and to a speedy trial by an impartial jury of 12 men of his vicinage, without whose unanimous consent he cannot be found guilty. There's our right being declared of how right to trial by jury works. You got to have unanimous consent. Now, let's go back over here for real quick. I'm going to show you what they're doing by hiding it. That in all capital and criminal prosecutions, man has the right to demand the cause and nature of his accusation, confronted with the accused witness, to call for evidence in his favor, to speedy trial by an impartial jury of his vicinage. Where's the 12 men? Why did you remove the verbiage of 12 men? And then, not only that, they took down the certification of this because they know that they've pulled stuff out of it and they don't want to certify it. Like this one. This information used to be on here regarding the Virginia Declaration of Rights and the Virginia Constitution. But as you can see firsthand, the difference. Oh, yeah, not that one. Section 8 here versus Section 8 here. Somebody's trying to mess with it. But we're going to look here. Get back down to, let me read this one right here. That religion or the duty which we owe to our Creator and the manner of discharging it can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. Oh, what? Not by force or violence. Fundamentally and principally, in our form of government, we're not authorized to use force and violence against our fellow man. Fundamentally and principally, from the law. And therefore, all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion according to the dictates of conscience. The liberty of conscience, that's religion. Freedom of thought. And that it is the mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, charity, and towards each other. I mean, we can't deny these facts of law. Declaration of Rights or Bill of Rights, synonymous, because that's a Bill of Rights is actually a Declaration of Rights, because declare is how we lay down the law. D meaning down, clarifying the words of that law. We're laying down the law. They don't want us to know that either. But notice, Bills of Rights, Declarations of Rights are separate from the constitutions. Why? Because the Constitution or form of government. Well, who would this actually apply to? Only those that are bound by the Constitution itself. But we're going to get into this Constitution, right? And let's read right here again. Agreed to and resolved upon the delegates and representatives of the several counties and corporations of Virginia. Corporations. Imagine that. by denying his governors permission to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation for his assent, and when so suspended, neglecting to attend to them for many years. By refusing to pass certain other laws unless the persons to be benefited by them would relinquish the estimable right of representation in the legislature. Imagine that. By dissolving legislative assemblies repeatedly and continually, for opposing with manly firmness his invasion on the rights of the people. When dissolved, by refusing to call others for a long space of time, thereby leaving the political system without any legislative head. By endeavoring to prevent the population of our country, and for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners. By keeping among us, in times of peace, standing armies and ships of war, by effecting to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. Wait, is any of this starting to sound familiar, folks? By combining with others to subject us to a foreign jurisdiction, given his assent to their pretended acts of legislation. Doesn't this sound just like the Declaration of Independence? Pair of planet treaties proposed to foreign powers on the 28th of June. The committee appointed a Declaration of Independence, brought in a draft. What do you mean brought in a draft? It's right here in the Constitution for Virginia. By combining with others to subject us to a foreign jurisdiction, given his assent to their pretended acts of legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving of us of the benefits of trial by jury. What's one of the benefits of trial by jury that they've deprived us of today? It's called jury nullification. See, the right of the people to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary was actually exercised through a trial by jury. And we had the right to bring our arguments before the jury and supply the evidence that they've made a bill of attainder, a bill of pains and penalties, and our jury had the power to abolish that. That changed in 1871. They stripped us of that right unlawfully. But again, this is the Virginia Constitution, June 29th, 1776. Now we go back here, keep reading. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. By plundering our seas, ravaging our coasts, burning our towns, and destroying the lives of our people. By inciting insurrections of our fellow subjects with the allurements of forfeiture and confiscation. Isn't that what's going on right now? By prompting our Negroes to rise in arms against us, those very Negroes whom, by an inhumane use of his negative, he hath refused us permission to exclude by law. This is Virginia standing up for the Negroes. By endeavoring to bring on the inhabitants of the frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions of existence. They were eliciting even the Indians to go against us. And let's not forget that part of history. The Indians were killing themselves and amongst themselves before we even got here. I know the history is being taught that, oh, well, the white man came over here and just took over and killed all the Indians and took their land and blah, 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 blah. I've already previously showed that that's false. that there were agreements made. Land was bought. That they were friends with some of the Indians, and including the ones that came to them for help because other Indian tribes were murdering them. By transporting at this time a large army of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, dissolution, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, unworthy the head of a civilized nation. By answering our repeated petitions for redress with a repetition of injuries, and finally by abandoning the helm of government and declaring us out of his allegiance and protection. Isn't that kind of where we're at now? I mean, it's so full of corruption. Who do you go to anymore? The legislature is corrupt, the executive is corrupt, and the judicial is corrupt. It's been invaded by members of the bar. And I'm sorry if that offends some of you title of nobility holding esquires out there, but it's the truth. It's the facts, and I can show the history of law behind it all. You've been brainwashed to human traffic us. And some of you are very well aware of the bonds that you guys write on the backside of cases off of the Sesta K Vi Trust, the individual trust fund in trust under ecclesiastical law, off of the Sesta K Trust Act of 1666, and then 1910 and 1913 with the birth certificate. And then later with Social Security number to get access to that account so you can write the bonds on the backside and cash out. The bid bond, the performance bond, and the payment bond. Not all members of the bar are privy to that. You got to be on the deep inside to get a hold of that stuff. But nonetheless, it's there. But I want to take a closer look at this again by answering our repeated petitions for redress. We're supposed to redress our grievances with the legislature, not the judicial. By which several acts of misrule the government of this country as formerly exercised under the Crown of Great Britain is totally dissolved. And they put it in big, bold capital letters. Now, remember, this is the Virginia Constitution, June 29, 1776. Now, wait a minute. Oh, wow. Now we can't even get to the Declaration of Independence on Avalon? Are you kidding me? Maybe it's just through that link. Let's see. Watch. Nope. Can't go to that one. Oh, that was there. Now, see this? Is refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome necessary for the public good, for beginning his governors to pass laws immediately. I mean, this is just a reiteration of the Virginia Constitution. This is an indicator that the Virginia Constitution was the basis for all of this. Prima facie evidence for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. I mean, it's the same exact verbiage. for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for imposing taxes on without our consent. Right there. Same old stuff. See how this all ties together? But see, one of the things I like to show here, when we go back and we go, oh, what about where is it? The proposed one. Because the proposed one shows that they wanted to abolish slavery then, at this particular point in time. Draft Constitution for Virginia. No person hereto after coming to this country shall be held within the same in slavery under any pretext whatever. Huh. There shall be no standing army but in time of actual war. No free man shall be debarred the use of arms within his own lands. Printing presses shall be free except so far as by commission of private injury cause, probable cause may be given of private. What am I, a little too big here? And I thought there was another one. Now I've gone over this document before, but see, this was the proposed one, the draft. Why did they get rid of the slavery? No person hereafter coming into this country shall be held within the same in slavery under any pretext whatever. Descendants shall go according to the laws of Gavelin 10, save only that females shall have equal rights with males. These were the good Christian people from Virginia, clear back to 1606, that believed everybody is created free and equal, and that you have the right to think for yourselves, and that women have the same rights as men. And that slavery is to be abolished. Now, here's a good one. All persons who by their own oath or affirmation, on their own, or by their testimony, shall give satisfactory proof to any court of record in this colony that they propose to reside in the same 7 years at the least, and who shall subscribe the fundamental laws. Well, what are the fundamental laws? Shall be considered as residents and entitled to all the rights of persons natural born. All persons shall have full and free liberty of religious opinion, nor shall any be compelled to frequent or maintain any religious institution. See, this is back when the persons were men and women, right? It was kind of synonymous-ish. Not the de facto persons that they call it today. But see, notice they don't have anything certified here. Of course, they don't want to do that one. But as you can see, they were trying to abolish, at least through Virginia, was trying to abolish slavery. And the fact that the Virginia Constitution, or I should say, the Declaration of Independence, was made out of the Virginia Constitution. And yeah, it's very clear that we've already been here in this particular point in time at least once before. By which several acts of misrule the government of this country is formally exercised under the crown of Great Britain is totally dissolved. We, therefore, the delegates and representatives of the good people of Virginia, have maturely considered the premises and viewing with great concern the deplorable conditions. It's amazing that word deplorable pops up here, huh? Isn't that what they've been trying to call us? Well, I wouldn't say us. The people that support Trump is deplorable. Haven't they tried to incite insurrections and cause division between us? It's amazing that it's right here in history that who the actual deplorables are. And viewing with great concern the deplorable conditions to which this once happy country must be reduced, unless some regular, adequate mode of civil polity is speedily adopted and in compliance with a recommendation of the General Congress, do ordain and declare the future form of government of Virginia to be as followeth. And then it goes into creating the legislative shall be formed of two distinct branches. Oh, wait, the legislative, executive, and judiciary department shall be separate and distinct. This is the part where I'm talking about when I was referencing Attorney General Barr when he was speaking out there talking about, oh, well, the Confederation wasn't right. We didn't have three branches of government yet. We had to do the Constitution and create three separate, well, wait, that would be a lie. It's right here, which is why they're trying to hide the original Virginia Constitution, because they don't want us to know how it's supposed to be. And as it was laid down, ordained, and established, our proper form of a Republican form of government. Right here in this document. So on the 28th date of June, the committee appointed to prepare Declaration of Independence brought in a draft on the second day of July. Congress adopted the resolution for independence, and on the 4th of July, they adopted the Declaration of Independence. That's actually not true. The Lee's resolution was adopted on the 2nd of July. John Hancock signed the first signature on July 4th, and it wasn't fully signed and ratified until August 8th. But that's okay. People can make mistakes, right? Unless we're talking about the Virginia Constitution, which was adopted by most of the other colonies. On the second day of July, Congress adopted the Declaration, and thereby solemnly published and declared that these united colonies are and have right to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as a free and independent states, they have full power to levy war. Well, this is quoting. He's not quoting from the Declaration of Independence. He's quoting from the Lee's resolution that was ratified on July 2nd, not the Declaration of Independence. The words don't match. The words he's citing here, quoting, is from the Lee's resolution. The shall conclude peace, contract, alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. Imagine that. From the moment of the Declaration of Independence, if not for most purposes at the antecedent period, the United Colonies must be considered as being a nation de facto, having a general government over it created, and acting by the general consent of the people of all the colonies. The powers of that government were not, and indeed could not be well defined. Excuse me. But still, its exclusive sovereignty in many cases was firmly established, and its controlling power over the states was in most, if not in all national measures, universally admitted. So this is another time where I take issue with some of the verbiage that's being said here. The powers of that government were not, and indeed could not be well defined. Well, we read the Virginia Constitution, and creating our form of government here, 3 separate independent branches of government, and how it's all laid out there in the Virginia Constitution that they don't want us to know about. It's there. It's very almost exactly like how our form of government is supposed to be today. Not much has changed in the form of government from June 29, 1776. But still, its exclusive sovereignty in many of the cases was firmly established, and its controlling power over the states was in most, if not in all national measures, universally admitted. The Articles of Confederation, of which we shall have occasion to speak more hereafter, were not prepared or adopted by Congress until November 1777. They were not signed or ratified by any of the states until July of 1778. And they were not ratified so as to become obligatory upon all the states until March 1781. In the intermediate time, Congress continued to exercise the powers of general government, whose acts were binding on all the states. So as you can see right there, they're admitting that we had a continental Congress. Delegates were sent. How else would you do that, right? Representatives from all the states or delegates were sent to assemble to make law. And though they constantly admitted the states to be sovereign and independent communities, yet it must be obvious that the terms were used in the subordinate and limited sense already alluded to, for it was impossible to use them in any other sense, since a majority of the states could, by their public acts in Congress, control and bind the minority. No, that's actually not true. We just was reading in there, people were to be free. It's a lie. Among the exclusive powers exercised by Congress were the power to declare war and make peace, to authorize captures, to institute appellate prize courts, to direct and control all national military and naval operations, to form alliances and make treaties, to contract debts and issue bills of credit upon national account. In respect to foreign governments, we were politically known as the United States only, and it was in our national capacity as such that we sent and received ambassadors, entered into treaties and alliances, and were admitted into the general community of nations who might exercise the right of belligerence and claim an equality of sovereign powers and prerogatives. Yeah. Right of belligerence. In other words, stop trespassing on our property, an aggregate of guaranteed rights, the fundamental law. We're tired of it. Interdicting all commerce onto the people, extending admiralty and vice admiralty jurisdiction beyond their ancient limits. What was the other one? Passing unconstitutional, anal, oppressive statutes. That was South Carolina's Constitution, 1776. Oh, please. In respect to the powers the Continental Congress exercised before the adoption of the Articles of Confederation, few questions were judicially discussed during the Revolutionary contest, for men had not leisure in the heat of war nicely to scrutinize or weigh such subjects. Inter arma silent legis. The people, relying on the wisdom and patriotism of Congress, silently acquiesced in whatever authority they assumed. But soon after the organization of the present government, the question was most elaborately discussed before the Supreme Court of the United States in a case calling for the exposition of the appellate jurisdiction of Congress in prize causes before the ratification of the Confederation. The result of that examination was that Congress, before the Confederation, posed by the consent of the people of the United States, sovereign and supreme powers for national purposes, and among others, the supreme powers of peace and war. And as an incident, the right of entertaining appeals in the last resort in prize causes, even in opposition to state legislation. And that the actual powers exercised by Congress in respect to national objects furnish the best exposition of its in respect to national objects furnished that the best exposition of its constitutional authority, since they emanated from the representatives of the people and were acquiesced in by the people. All right, so now we have a kind of a brief overview of how things got started with the separation from England, from Great Britain, and the documents that I just showed, which for those of you that have watched episode 1 in my educational series, I highly recommend everybody go watch those. But in the first one, I laid down the history of law. I showed the documents just like I showed there. Now, there is obviously a plethora of other documents to read through. I haven't had the time to read through all of that. There's a lot there to read, but I encourage those that do have the time to read, go through and read them. But I have gone through some of them. Of the previous constitutions, right? On a few of the shows on here. Now these ones right here, all of these constitutions right here are just awesome, because it's really laying down some of the foundations and the law, right? See, a declaration of the rights of the inhabitants of the Commonwealth or state of Pennsylvania. Then we get into the Constitution, plan or frame of government for the Commonwealth or state of Pennsylvania. And again, this is where we talk about state is state of being. It's a state of being, the body politic, or the state of being free and equal. But I want to point this one out again. Right here. That the people of the state have the sole and exclusive and inherent right of governing and regulating the internal policy of the same. Remember, I showed this before from etymology. At this particular point in time, it was not pronounced police. It was policy. Because remember, we're talking corporations, and they knew corporations made policy. And that's exactly why it's written right here. And it's in reference to the legislature. What power is inherent in the people? In governing and regulating? That's right. We get to regulate them and those acting in interstate and foreign commerce. Huh. And see, furthermore, reading Article the 4th there, that all power being originally inherent in and constantly derived from the people, therefore all officers of government, whether legislative, executive, or their trustees and servants, and at all times accountable to them. So see how these two go together? The people get to make the policy that regulates government because they're supposed to be the servants. Now, how do you set up a servant? You have to lay it out. Contract. I mean, this is essentially a compact, which is still a contract that government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community, and not for the particular emolument or advantage of any single man, family, or set of men. It's supposed to say set of men. There's a typo in there, I'm pretty sure. Set of men who are a part only of that community. Oh, gee, are they talking about the bar? I believe so. So to answer a question out here on YouTube, what I don't get, why is this all null and void now? The corruption? See, that's the thing. It's not null and void. Anything that comes in conflict with this is void for any effect because this came first. First in time, first in line. This is the fundamental law that we're talking about being laid down because, again, these are our rights. Rights as the law, a declaration of the rights. The Constitution doesn't start till down here with Section 1. These are articles. So this is a reason why I'm covering this is because rights are the law, and through succession of law, rights cannot be diminished. And so when we're trying to figure out, you know, basic Second Amendment. Okay, right here. Here's the verbiage that the Second Amendment is referring to, that the people have a right to bear arms for the defense of themselves and the state. And as standing armies in time of peace are dangerous to liberty, they ought not to be kept up, and that the military should be kept under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. There's your Second Amendment. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, because a militia, being necessary for the security of a free state, a state of being free and equal, the militia has all the power. We, the people, every able-bodied male between age 18 to 64 is automatically duty-bound to serve in the militia. Right here in history of the right, it's funny how they'll say, oh, well, we can't really seem to figure out the history of the right to keep and bear arms. Really? I'm going to hold that there for a second. Watch this. Let me show you some history of law on the right. We'll go back to this first charter of Virginia here. Why did we take? There we go. And we do likewise for us, our heirs and successors, by these presents, give full power and authority to the said Sir Thomas Gates, Sir George Somers, blah, 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 blah. And to every of them into the said companies, several companies, plantations, and colonies, that they and every of them shall and may, at all and every time and times hereafter, have, take, and lead in the said voyage, and for and towards the said several plantations and colonies, and to travel thitherward, and to abide and inhabit there, in every the said colonies and plantations, such and so many of our subjects as such willingly accompany them or any of them in the said voyages and plantations, with sufficient shipping and furniture of armor, weapons, ordnance, powder, victual, and all other things necessary for the said plantations and for their use and defense there, provided always, that none of the said persons be such as shall hereinafter be specially restrained by us, our heirs or successors. Hmm. 1606, we've had the right to armor and weapons and powder. Huh. Quite odd that it's right here in writing, clear back to 1606. Oh, where'd it go? Here's another part of it. And we do further these presents for us and our ancestors, give and grant unto the said, that they and every them by their deputies, ministers, and factors may transport the goods, chattels, armor, munition, and furniture needful to be used by them for their said apparel, food, defense, and otherwise in respect of the said plantations, out of our realms of England and Ireland and all other our dominions from time to time, for and during the time of 7 years, next ensuing the date hereof, for the better relief of the said several colonies plantations without any custom, subsidy, or other duty, unto us, our heirs, successors, to be yielded or paid for the same. Pretty clear. I mean, as mud, right? That we would have the right to keep and bear arms, right? Where was it? I swear it was saying something like while out on adventure. Oops, wrong one. Anyway, now see, here's also showing how we were paying them as we were mining for gold and silver. We do grant and agree for us and our ancestors that the said several councils and their said colonies shall and lawfully may, by virtue hereof, from time to time, without any interruption of us, our heirs or successors, give and take order to dig, mine, and search for all manner of mines of gold, silver, and copper, as well within any part of their said several colonies, as of the said mainlands on the backside of the same colonies, and to have and enjoy the gold, silver, and copper to be gotten thereof, to the use and behoof of the same colonies, and the plantations thereof, yielding therefore to us and our heirs and successors the 5th part only of all the same gold and silver, and the 15th part of all the same copper, so to be gotten and had, as is aforesaid, without any other manner of profit or account, to be given or yielded to us and our heirs and our successors for or in respect of the same. And that they shall or lawfully may establish the cause to be made a coin to pass current there between the people of the several colonies, from the more ease of traffic and bargaining between and amongst them and the natives there, of such metal and in such manner and form as the said several councils there shall limit and appoint. So here's the thing out here on YouTube, James. You see, under the rules of evidence, we have the right to put on judicial notice anything that's published. This is published. And if a right is being declared here at one particular point in time, it just explains the right, because again, declarations of rights are merely declaratory of the common law. It's already the fundamental law. The right to keep and bear arms essentially comes from the law of nature that's declared in the Declaration of Independence. The right to defend ourselves with arms. Why wouldn't we? Well, no, only government can have arms and the people can't defend themselves from government. BS. That's exactly what's written in the Pennsylvania. That's what's written in many of the founding constitutions here, is that we have the right to keep and bear arms to defend not only ourselves, but the defense of our state of being free and equal. Fundamentally and principally, that's the history of the right to keep and bear arms. It goes all the way back to the law of nature, and nature's God as the fundamental principle of law in this nation called America. And government doesn't have the authority, subject matter jurisdiction over those rights, because natural rights and civil rights have absolutely nothing to do with the establishment, support, or management of government. That's in American jurisprudence, volume 15, section 2 there, civil rights section 2, That's what it says. So now that we know that, the fact that we can cite any of this stuff as our rights, but see, they don't want us to do this research. They don't want us to know, because it would totally destroy their powers, their assumed powers. Like what the alleged Congress, I don't even know if it's even legitimate going on right now, that they're trying to make it, well, you got to have a background check to sell privately. Just exactly when did we give you subject matter jurisdiction over our right to keep and bear arms to begin with? I mean, it's in the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Rights. Do you have power to make legislation regarding our right to freedom of speech? Do we have to have a background check to exercise the right to freedom of speech? How about the right to a speedy and public trial? How about the right to a trial by a jury? Do we need to get a background check and apply for that? How about the requirement pursuant to the Fourth Amendment or Article the Fourth of the Bill of Rights that no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by, that's right, an affirmation, oath or affirmation. Got to have an affidavit there, and it has to be a accuser and the witnesses. Because technically speaking, from the fundamental law, you got to have two witnesses to the same overt act. Oh, please, with your shipping war crap. You and the rest of you nut jobs. Oh, it's a shipping thing. And shipping lanes. And come on, people. Let's get back to some fundamental. Right here, right, it says that a frequent reoccurrence to fundamental principles and a firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, industry, and frugality are absolutely necessary to preserve the blessings of liberty. Anything that comes in conflict with that is void for any effect. Does that make sense? And that's the problem, folks. They think this stuff is fiction. No, these are facts of law. Rights is the law. Comes from the word droit, rights and law, French word droit. But then again, not many people have as well read as I am. So if you want to remain ignorant, that's fine, but not on my watch. And this is the key right here. A frequent reoccurrence to fundamental principles. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Because the plus sign is a fundamental principle of mathematics that dictate the correct answer every time. Whether you like that or not, that's a fact. So, knowledge is power. You ain't got no knowledge, you ain't got no power. And that's a fact. No, our republic wasn't lost. It's right here in writing. Man, crazy ass people. So pay attention, folks. Of law are staring you right in the face right now. This is the foundation of law and rights as the law. This is the law that's common to all. This is part of our Republican in character and form. I mean, that's what this is about. That every member of society hath the right to be protected in the enjoyment of life, liberty, and property, and therefore is bound to contribute his portion towards the experience or the expense of that protection, and yield his personal service when necessary, or an equivalent thereto. But no part of a man's property can be justly taken from him or applied to public uses without his own consent, uh, without his own consent, or that of his legal representatives. Nor can any man who is conscientiously scrupulous of bearing arms be justly compelled thereto, if he will pay such equivalent, nor are the people bound by any laws, but such as they have in like manner assented to for their common good. So the stuff that's made up by the legislature doesn't apply. But let's look at that right there, what I just read. Okay. Let's go to the current common day constitution here of Idaho. Declaration of Rights. Oh, where is it? Section 11, right to keep and bear arms. Right here, the people have a right to keep and bear arms, the right to shall not be abridged. Okay. But this provision shall not prevent the passage of laws to govern the carrying of weapons concealed on the person, nor prevent passage of legislation providing minimum sentence for crimes committed while in the possession of a firearm. This comes in conflict with the Second Amendment and the fundamental principle of the right to keep and bear arms. If you got somebody out there that's using arms in such a manner, like committing murder, well, why don't we just sentence them to death? We don't have to worry about them getting out, getting a hold of a firearm, and killing somebody else. Hello? But so let's see. Well, this isn't actually the one I was looking for. Actually, it might be. Here we go. I think it's in here. Yeah, right here we're talking about where is that? It talks about in the Idaho Constitution about religious scruples against taking up arms, and you pay into the school fund, which goes right along with what it says here. Talking about religious scruples of bearing arms, that you got to pay a little tax there. So I'm going to end right there for tonight. Hope you all enjoyed viewing facts of law, history of law, and the revolution and the formation of our nation. All right. So thank you all for the likes, the follows, and the shares over here on Facebook and YouTube. The subscriptions. If you're not subscribed over here on YouTube, I like to ask you to get subscribed here, as well as thumbs up. And apparently, some people are having a hard time with sharing and the chat. It's probably because they don't have uh, their verified account. And I would like to try and explain that a little bit. Is the fact that there's certain, when I go live, there's certain boxes that I have to check boxes. One is it's not made for kids, and then it's made for people that are 18 and over. So you have to verify your account that you're over 18, which means you have to have an actual YouTube account. But it helps keeps the trolls away, and it also helps keep from having my channel shut down. Yeah, there are all these restrictions that I put on myself, but it's actually better that way. And none of my channels are monetized. Okay. Never have been. Done this all by organic. This is all you guys. You're all here because of word of mouth between you. So thank you for being here. And thank all those that have been giving support, and greatly appreciate you. Love you. Thanks for your prayers and your love and kindness. And I just ask those that would like to help support the channels to help continue to pay the bills, keep this thing going. You can send those postal money orders, cashier's checks, anything like that over to the office. 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho, 83704. Digital side of things, PayPal is Kirk_Pendergrass@hotmail.com. If you have the Cash App, that's another digital way of doing things, is the $, capital K, capital P, EN71. And if you're interested in having a little more private, and we're not necessarily going to get censored, because I do it through my own private meetings over on Patreon, patreon.com/Kirk's Law Corner. And Wednesday night workshop. Again, I've been doing that now for 4 or 5 weeks now. So for those of you on Patreon, start trying to get in there. And if that time doesn't work for you, let me know. Okay, but as it is right now, I moved it from 7 to 6, no, pardon me, 5 p.m. Mountain time, 4 p.m. Is that right? Yeah. So 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, and 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday nights. And again, if for those of you that are already on Patreon, check your messages, because I've already given you a link to that. I'm not going to publish that link on the main board. So it stays in the private. You guys are privy to that. That's part of the benefits of being on Patreon. And of course, we go into a lot more in-depth conversations than I can go into on here. So I thank everybody over there that's on Patreon, and quite a few have just recently joined over there. So thank you for joining over there. And I will see my patrons over there Wednesday night. Wednesday night workshop. All right. Hope everybody has a wonderful night, and hang in there. We're going to get through this one day at a time. All right. Much love, everybody. We will see you later. Have a good night.